Welcome to the Rare Air Show, an alternative news network by South Dakotans for South Dakotans. And today we're here with Dr. Dennis Willert. Welcome, Dennis.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome.
And as you can see, we're right here in front of his office here in Brookings, South Dakota. And Dennis has been a chiropractor for quite a few years now. You can do just a little short intro of who you are and what you're doing here.
But there's not much to say, you know. No, this is Dr. Dennis Willert, chiropractor in Brookings, South Dakota, and been in practice here in Brookings for about 16 years. Graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport, and we take care of crawl-ins to our oldest patient's 103 years old, so we take care of everything in between.
Very, very cool. Dennis is a good friend of mine, and I just thought it would be a good way to start a conversation regarding the COVID vaccine, specifically for younger people. And we'll actually talk specifically today about healthcare workers, maybe some concerns about their employer or whatever healthcare system they work with, maybe trying to persuade them to take this vaccine, maybe even, with their job on the line. That can put people in a difficult situation if they have a personal preference, or concern about this vaccine. And when it's your livelihood and when it's your income and you're in a tight spot, it's a hard decision to make. So I just wanted to raise this concern. I know Dennis is very informed regarding vaccines in general and some of the concerns regarding this particular COVID vaccine. So I'll give it to Dennis here again.
Well, Peter, I appreciate the opportunity to just visit with you quick this morning on it. This is a curious time to be living in and a curious set of circumstances for all of us to be living in. As for myself, my vaccination journey and to become more informed about it started back when I was in chiropractic school. It's a really hot topic among alternative care, complementary care providers such as myself, chiropractors, massage therapists, holistic doctors, things of those natures. And there's always been a dichotomy between the medical field following that herd inoculation, the immune system drive of the need and the value of vaccinations. And there's a pretty good case out there to support it. What's alternative and harder to find is the case of the why behind the what. Why were vaccines so successful? And if you really start looking at that data, there's some pretty interesting facts about our increased elevations of sanitation, the fact that we learned and we understood more about how viruses and bacteria started to travel and how they affected the body. And we've only gotten smarter with it over the last few years. Now, coronavirus, this is a whole new thing. This China virus thing isn't new. Coronavirus has been around for 100 years that we know of for sure because it comes from animals. Veterinarians out there, people who work large animal, small animal, know that this is a virus that's very, very common in their field. It just isn't supposed to jump and become a human thing. But viruses do that. They change, they mutate. So now to be in this position where as healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, and where they work, they're frontline workers and being exposed to potential cases, they're calling out the deck of cards that they know has worked in the past, which is mass inoculation, vaccination. But this is where the conversation really gets interesting because this isn't a vaccine like we know vaccines. This isn't like the flu shot. This isn't like the chickenpox shot. This is a reversed RNA biologic that gets injected into the human body. And at this point in history, we have very little human trial data to know what the long-term physiological effects will be on people.
Yeah, and I would jump in there to pull that point out right there because from someone that's not very knowledgeable in the medical field, just from what you said, it seems like with the lack of knowledge and experience with this type of vaccine, and I don't even know how to pronounce it like you just said, but it seems like as humans we're becoming the guinea pig. Is that correct? Is that fair enough to say?
And it is a fair assumption because we've got these things that happened during World War I and World War II that governmental powers abused humans to find out how they work. We made tremendous advancements in what we know about the human body because of those violations, and it's paid some tremendous dividends into what we know, both from a chiropractor standpoint to a medical standpoint, of how the body works. But it came at a tremendous and awful cost. And we're at a point in history here where we don't do human trials unless they make it through rigorous stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 animal trials. This has happened at such an incredible speed, and the awe of it is that we had this novel virus show up in our radar literally a year ago. This is right the same time of the year when it started, like, oh, something's coming out of China, because on March 12th is when they shut down our country. In 12 months, we went from a novel virus, something we didn't know anything about, to having a vaccine that people actually have an option to go and take now, which is incredible. The administration created that warp speed. We haven't been able to do it with cancer in 40 years. So it's incredible what the scientists have done. Now, how we got there, it's going to be a time test to see what the long-term effects, what the potential side effects are. And I don't know. I don't ever buy the first model of any new vehicle because I know they don't have all the bugs worked out when I've bought it. So I hate to say it, but in healthcare, this is a crazy new place to be at, and I think people need to realize that there are more options to help protect themselves from getting sick than just a vaccine.
Very, very good point. And I'd like to narrow it down here a little bit more specifically. I hear there are concerns about specifically women that, their health concerns about potentially wanting to have children in the future. And I've heard some rumors, and you can give me, if you have any more details, that this vaccine can affect reproductive health. And that's something, again, we're trying to help our local communities here, specifically in South Dakota. So we have some great healthcare systems here in our state, and let's just talk directly to these young women, these young nurses who maybe haven't even started a family yet, but they're looking forward to having children in the future, and specifically any concerns around that area.
Well, you're getting into a really interesting component of the why and the what and everything else with get a vaccine. My employer requires it. My employer wants it. What are the potential long-term effects? Will this hurt me? Will this have an effect on my reproductive? Right now, there's no clinical or scientific data to say it will. But there's also no clinical or scientific data to say that it won't. There's some animal studies that are out there, particularly reported by the frontline doctors, who are a classification and group of medical doctors worldwide that work with coronavirus frontline, who are trying to help their patients understand what a reverse RNA biologic is and how it works in the body. And there's a case study out there where they did it with the SARS-1 virus, and SARS-1, SARS-2 are about 40% similar. SARS-2 is what we know as the coronavirus. There was a study done with ferrets, and the adaptability and the ability of the ferrets that were inoculated with the biologic being released back into the wild and then running into variant strains of the SARS virus, they died. So it's not really good, strong, supportive data, but it's only 40%. So what we need is time. We need time to figure it out. What I would really recommend and tell people is that your health is determined by what you do, how well you take care of yourself. And there is tremendous research to support the person having high levels of vitamin D in their circulatory system, 65 micrograms or milliunits per deciliter of blood, having high levels of vitamin C in their daily consumption, making sure that they have vitamin K, good probiotics, so that the way that we used to treat people, go back 100 years ago using macrophages to help clear out the viruses and the bacteria that we deal with every single day with every dust, dirt, termites, mites, the things of just living not only in a domesticated, clean environment like a city, but think of the dirty dirt floors that our ancestors lived in, and they survived many, many trials and tribulations, yellow spotted fever, Rocky Mountain fever, brushes with Lyme disease, and these different things. There are other ways to keep somebody healthy and at the maximum capacity to take on an assault from a virus or a bacteria that are kind of forgotten.
Yeah, I would just say even chiropractic here.
Well, I didn't want to crack my own bones on that one, but the fact that chiropractic can be part of a healthy lifestyle to make sure you maintain your activity, your physical fitness, your overall mobility, keeping all your joints moving the way you're supposed to. I mean, just from the standpoint of respiration, keeping your ribs and your middle part of your back so you can take a deep breath, all tie into these little tiny pebbles that, given enough of them, make up a beach. Yeah. And you got to keep those things in mind when you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely really something that is not being talked about enough is just general overall health and basic things that we've known for decades and centuries now. And what are some ways that, if again you said it's time, we don't know much about this, right? What are some ideas for people that are feeling pressured, maybe from their employer, that they need to take this now, but they don't feel ready to do that? Are there some resources or some sites? Is it a legal thing they need to look for? What's some ideas they can do just to buy some time, you might say?
Well, that's a really, again, interesting, because our society right now is operating largely out of fear, and we have a shortage of qualified healthcare workers in our state. We know that a year ago, our healthcare system was completely overwhelmed. We didn't have enough nurses because they were out with the COVID symptoms and didn't know if they should be at work or being exposing. We're a lot smarter than we were 12 months ago. And I would say, if you have an employer that's really pressuring you that you have to take this, I would just ask you to ask the why. Why can't you just know your own self? Why can't you do the things that we've done for 100 years when you work in a healthcare facility? Wear your mask around other sick people, do good nutrition, take your vitamin C, do these different things that we know will keep a body's immune system at its max capacity, instead of putting something in their body that we're not really sure what it's going to do. And at the end of the day, you ask the question, if their employer pushes it, you go there to trade your time for their money. If you don't like the terms of the agreement, you may need to find someplace else to trade your time for money. And I say to put it that way because people put tremendous amounts of time and energy to become qualified nurses, qualified physicians, board certified. But if you don't like the rules of the game that they're playing, you don't really have any choice, because the golden rule says, he who has all the gold makes all the rules.
That's a good one, Dennis. I'll jump over to more personally anything that you have a concern about, anything you want to bring to the attention of some of our political leaders, even right here in Brookings, and just anything on your mind.
I just would like everybody to take a step back and take a breath and look at all of the facts that they're out there now. Not function on theory, not function on someone else's ideology. Look at what is really true. And we know through tremendous amount of research, not just for what the pandemic we're in now, but throughout history, there are things that every person can do to stay healthy. We know that in Africa, to help fight malaria, they give hydroxychloroquine every Sunday to populations, because it's just the supplement you take every day to avoid malaria. We know that if you do a regular regimen of vitamin D, vitamin C, you keep these levels high in the human body, it will expand the potentiality of that immune system to handle more stress. And that's the only reason any of us ever get sick, is we're weak. Our bodies are weak. We've fought something. We're dealing with something, and we don't have enough ammunition in the gun to fight the battle, and then we lose. And that may be something as simple as influenza. It might be something as simple as a rhinovirus, a common cold. We don't get enough sleep. Mom's favorite line: you go outside with a wet head, you're going to get a cold. You're going to get a cold if you go outside with a wet head. It's not true. You don't get a cold for having a wet head. You get a wet head because you get a cold because your head was wet. You deviated resources from maintaining your overall physiological function, and now the bacteria, virus, whatever, got an opportunistic time to strike, and you get a cold. It's more step-by-step, methodical, scientific process to understanding it. Take care of yourself. Do you and take care of you. If you don't know how to do that, reach out to trusted healthcare folks in your community that you know, that you trust. And if their political views, if their healthcare views don't match what you're looking for, the internet's a great big place. There are lots of us out there that have alternatives and will share. And if I don't have an answer for you, I will make sure to get you in touch with somebody who does, because there are a tremendous amount of people in this community and this state and this world that are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. But we've got to be able to share knowledge so that we can all make the best informed decisions for ourselves and for our spouses and for our families, because this thing isn't a sprint. This is a marathon, and the decisions we make now can echo a generation. We just don't know.
Yeah, and I'll disagree with you a little bit there. Dennis is a very smart guy, but more importantly, he has a servant heart, and he really, really cares about his patients. And you will feel that if you come here, Willert Chiropractic here in Brookings, South Dakota. And just a final, what are you most grateful for about living here in South Dakota?
You know, I moved around a lot. I've traveled around the world quite a bit, and I am grateful for the generosity and gratefulness of the community I live in. I've got surrounded with great patients, great friends who live with intention and with purpose, and when they aren't able to live out their intention and purpose, they give me the opportunity to help them find their path again and live life, and that has made all the difference here.
Very, very wonderful, Dennis. Really appreciate your time today. And as always, we're about promoting ideas of personal liberty and freedom here in South Dakota. Cheers to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Take a deep breath of that rare air.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.